Okay, we are live. I am back in the basement. My basement is much better now. It is dry. It
Good.
is, yeah, it's not flooded like it was last week. So
It is appropriately decorated as well.
it is, yeah. I was like, I wanted to bring home my temple or my Last Crusade poster to hang up behind me. I was like, but I forgot it because I didn't want to bring home the 27 by 40 poster frame.
Oh, right.
And then I was like, oh, wait, I have two posters from the last Indiana Jones. So I'll just put one of those in my light box.
I mean, it's a good call.
Hence,
It looks
um,
good and appropriately moody. I'm sad you didn't have your whip out though. Um, didn't feel like getting that one from the sex box.
the show is still young, Devin.
This is when the after dark portion happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Only on Patreon.
Yes. Oh, 90%
Indiana Jones.
PG.
Indiana Jones and the Sex Temple of Doom.
There's a Raiders of the Lost Ark something in there. I just like the word Raiders. There's something in that. If it
Um,
wasn't quarter after 11, I'd come up with it.
yeah. Oh, did your time change?
Yeah, it's back to 11 to midnight.
Okay. All right. Well, that sucks.
Yeah, it's all right.
All right. Let's get into it. Hey, everybody. Welcome to You Have to Watch This podcast. I'm Alan.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Devin.
And today we're going to take a look at we're going to break things up a little bit. Usually we make each other watch things that one of us has never seen before. Last week, I was in front of my movie collection, reached behind me and grabbed a random movie off the shelf. So we're talking about Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. But before we get into that, we're going to be talking about things that we've watched in pop culture over the last week in a segment we like to call "We Watch This." And I'm realizing now I forgot to look to see what I pulled first. So up first, we're going to talk about if it will work. Why won't it work? Oh, there we go. That's why. We're going to talk about Ryan saw a thing. He saw Godzilla and Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire.
Tell me about it.
Oh man, I totally forgot my popcorn bucket. I was gonna show it off.
You had a
Okay, go
popcorn
get
bucket
it.
for
Go
What was
get
it?
go
Yeah.
get it while we talk about what
Okay.
Devin
I'm going to turn off
watched.
my camera real quick.
Okay.
Oh, we'll talk about me first?
Yeah. We're going to
Okay.
talk about what you watched because I watched this too a little bit.
Oh,
Quiet on
shoot,
Set: The
okay.
Dark Side of Kids TV, the
Ask-
Nickelodeon documentary.
Alan, ask me what I thought about this.
Devin, what did you think about this? Your mic has been doing a thing lately where it's cutting you off when you do stuff like that. I don't know if you
Good.
have like
I hope
voice
that was
suppression.
just nothing but a silent scream. That would have been
Well,
so appropriate.
What sucks is it does it when you laugh too. So every time you laugh, we lose it. So you might need to change your settings in Discord.
I'll either have to do that or I'll laugh a little different. I'll tone it down to a chortle every
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, because we don't want it cutting off any of your sound for the live stream. But
That's fair.
so you screamed
I did.
in shock.
I did. Just a
Um,
loud. It was awful. It is what an
Yeah.
absolute just devastating documentary to watch, especially as somebody who grew up loving shows like All That and The Amanda Show and being very aware of all of the other shows but like too cool for school for them. Absolute garbage. What
Yeah.
disgusting human beings.
Yeah. That's about all I got to
I-
say. I've watched it. I think it's I agree with everything you've said. I feel for all of the victims in it. Um the coolest takeaway is like you look at clips of all that and you're like, wonder whatever happened to them. Like you know what happened to Keenan Thompson and Kel Mitchell.
Yeah.
But then they're just people who show up on the documentary. It's like, oh, I forgot about them.
Yeah.
Nice. Like
had the
it's
same.
nice. It's nice seeing people. Um, I have you read about the Mark Summers of it all?
No, tell me about it.
He has come out against the documentary that he's in, because he says he was
Oh.
ambushed to talk bad about Nickelodeon, And the
What?
filmmakers were like, no, like you knew what you were getting into.
Of course you did.
But to, and also,
are we talking about the Double Dare guy?
yeah, the Double Dare guy.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of I'm upset about that whole situation
Tell me.
with him. So he won, like, this stuff happened pretty much after and during he was on his way out.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where it's like they're going to ask him questions about stuff that happened after he was there. And I understand getting him because he is such a prominent face for Nickelodeon during the 90s. Like, that's my era of like Nickelodeon was like him. And I'm just like, it's just one of those things where it's like, could he have handled it a little bit better? Yes. But at the same time, like, I feel like with his reaction, with what's come out after, they weren't entirely upfront with him the type of stuff that they were going to be doing.
It could be.
So I feel like it's kind of on both sides of this when it comes to him specifically.
Like if you agree to an interview about something like this, even without, if you agree to an interview for a film like this, they have no obligation to tell you what the questions are going to be beforehand. So I think I want to believe that he didn't know about the stuff that happened after him, because one of the things that I saw was, I'm blanking on her name, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Melissa Joan Hart. She talked about the everything that happened here, and whoa. she filmed in a different studio for most of her time there, because there was the LA studio and then there was the Orlando studio. I think she was in Orlando, and a lot of the Dan Schneider stuff was in LA based. Mm-hmm. So that's like, I don't want to say too much about it because I haven't watched the whole thing. I did see most of the Drake Bell interview, which is hard to watch.
I didn't know he was a part of this.
Oh, really?
And I feel like I was the only one in the planet that when they were like, everyone wanted to know who, and then he comes out of the shadows, I audibly gasped. I went, and I didn't know, because I didn't know. And I told Ramona, she's like, yeah, he's like the one thing I know about this.
Yeah. They kept that secret up until like a few days before it came out because they had to get ahead of it. So,
I mean, the other thing is, what I really hope they don't do is they don't do a Fyre Fest documentary situation with this, because the documentary, you can tell, really wanted Amanda Bynes and Jeanette McCurdy's input in here.
Yeah.
And they didn't show up for the interviews, so they talked about them. And I feel like those are two very strong perspectives that we should hear from. And if neither of them want to talk about it, that's totally fine. Jeanette McCurdy had her awesome, awesome book that I totally recommend if you haven't read it or listened to the audiobook. Worth it. But I feel like specifically Amanda Bynes, and I feel like I'd be nervous that a competing documentary would be like, yeah, it's the same thing, but we got Amanda Bynes.
Yeah.
And like, I don't want that.
I think what I read from Amanda Bynes is she's not going to, like, when they asked her to do this, she had a breakdown and just, yeah. So
that's awful. And I mean, there was a part when I was watching specifically the Drake Bell thing where I'm like, this man is literally reliving the worst days of his life for my entertainment.
Yeah.
I don't feel good about listening to this.
Well, I don't think it's for your entertainment when at that point in the show, you know what you're watching and you know what it is. Like, it's pretty much informational at that point.
Yeah, but it's still, I felt icky listening to it. And like, he does a really good job of being respectful, and like, he doesn't go into graphic detail, but he definitely paints you a picture of what happened. But I was like, man, this is his personal thing. Like, I shouldn't be listening to this, like, without knowing him.
Yeah. Do you want to hear a dark, twisted take on this whole thing?
Yeah.
This is on Max, owned by Warner Brothers. up until a few weeks, maybe a few months ago, Warner Brothers was trying to merge with Paramount, who owns Nickelodeon, and then they released this because the deal fell through. Coincidence?
Oof. That is a big oof.
Yeah.
Another reason, yeah, that's and then that opens up more questions.
Yeah.
Hold on, you guys saw it on Max? I had to buy a subscription to Discovery Plus for this.
Max
Yeah,
is part of
Max is in a
Discovery.
different country. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, gross.
Yeah. Yeah, we get all of the HBO shows that are being canceled left and right and ending.
Sorry, you mean Sky Atlantic? Keep going.
Discovery Plus and the Impractical Jokers.
What a
And
mix.
and the best part, a few DC films. Not all the DC films, a select few. So,
A smattering of whatever they could
Yes.
get licenses for.
yeah. You know, because they own the license, but you're only going to get a few of them. So, yeah.
Streaming now. What have we turned it into, guys?
Yeah,
It was
it's
supposed to be the answer to a question, and now it's the problem that we
Yeah.
had to begin with.
Okay, well let's
all right,
come up
let's
with a
move
new
on.
kind of stream.
Let's talk
And then
about
that'll get messed up.
let's talk about another kind of monster. Let's talk about Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire. Ryan,
So-
you saw this. Tell us
Yes,
about
I
it.
did. And popcorn buckets are the rage. And so I wanted to make sure that I showed you guys the one that I mean, I was surprised that they still had this stuff available. So it was like I saw it, I was like, I really need it. They were like, yeah, I have it. So I want to show you the popcorn bucket I got when I went to the theater.
Oh, it's so cool. It's a
Standard
art
paper.
piece.
I'm sorry, I wanted to do that. I've been wanting to do that since like last weekend.
I
I've been
thought you
wanting-
like had like Godzilla's skull or like
No.
King Kong's fist. No, you had an
I'm
RC
sorry.
bucket.
Popcorn
I'm so
buckets have been
confused.
a craze for like the past like month and a half, and I needed to do that anyway. Okay, so this movie was everything that I was hoping and more. It is the dumb, stupid, fun Godzilla movie that is an excellent counter to the dead serious one that came out with -1.
Okay.
Godzilla and Kong have to be wrestled together to work together, which is amazing. Godzilla is King Kong is basically like like human, pretty much. Like he understands like what's going on. Like he takes cues from people. Other monsters show up that are just even better. There's a few classic monsters that show up that I was hoping were going to and did. There is and they do perfect fan service in this movie as well. I'm being extremely vague because I don't know how specific
Yeah.
you guys want me to be. So
I want to watch it. I really do. I don't want you to ruin anything.
Can
But
can I
you just
ask?
Tell me your. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you go ahead, Devin.
What's your favorite other monster that showed up?
it's one of the classic ones,
Yeah.
and I don't want to like. She's kind of important to the plot.
Is it
and-
Mothra? You said she. Who else is it
I
gonna
know.
be, man?
I know. I wanted to hint, but yeah, Mothra shows up, and it is the perfect it's the perfect it's the three of them working together, and it's amazing. You've got the evil Kong that they fight against, with a bunch of other Kongs, and there's like and the other white monster in this is basically like Mr. Freeze of the Godzilla MonsterVerse,
Great.
which is like it just this movie is just stupid fun, and it's amazing, and it's everything that I wanted it to be. So
Of the
yeah.
Godzilla movies that came out in the last year, where does this rank?
to be because of how different it is to -1, my enjoyment in both of them is equal.
Okay.
What I will say is that this is my this is like my second favorite of the MonsterVerse
Okay.
of like this like new Godzilla MonsterVerse like series. So it's like it's King of Monsters, then this, then Skull Island, then the first Godzilla, and then the rest of them just fall under that.
Okay.
But this and -1 are pretty much equal in my enjoyment. So.
Okay. Interesting. I didn't really watch anything big to talk about here. I was at the Horrific Hope Film Festival this weekend with our friends over at Victims and Villains. So don't really have much to report from that other than it went very well and got to hang out with all the people at Victims, and it was a lot of fun. And
Very cool.
yeah, it was a good time. And they have I'm definitely looking forward to 2025.
Aw.
So
I have a semi-related question to what Ryan was talking about, and I was just thinking about it. What movie's popcorn bucket is going to make this concept jump the shark and make us not want to do cursed popcorn buckets anymore? And why is it? Why is it going to be Mad Max Fury Road? Or
Oh,
That one going to be.
the Furiosa one?
just her arm.
Or it's going to be one of those like spray things that they were like spraying on their mouth before they go, "Worship me." That one, or witness me. That one. It's going to be that.
So let's play a game. Let's play a game of how much can Alan get for his Dune popcorn bucket on eBay
How
right
much
now?
can you get for your? Okay.
Guess. I want you both to
Yeah.
throw out a number there. I've got it up here. I'm going off of the highest one that I can see here, because there are some they're a little bit all over the place. But what is the most that I can get for my sealed Dune 2 popcorn bucket?
$80.
Ryan, what is your guess?
See, I want to give two answers because it's like, what are you actually going to get, and what can you list it as?
Yeah.
95.
Higher for both of you. The highest listing right now, a lot of them are around where you guys are. So 96, 109. There's one on here sealed, $229.
Who are you? Why do you think you have that kind of a product?
Because it is going to be worth that to someone. Well, I mean, not that, but close.
There's one here that comes with KY jelly that goes for 130. So
I saw a post where like the guy that came up with the popcorn bucket idea was like, "Well, if I knew you'd all be weird about it, I wouldn't have made it." It's like, why did you make it look like that then?
yeah, the lowest I see for a sealed one is about $109, $100. Yeah, so I could quadruple my investment on that. Like that's the key to buying AMC stuff. Like, don't buy the stock, buy the popcorn buckets.
Is there any more cursed object in this world than Dune 2 popcorn bucket used? I wouldn't buy it. It'd have to be sealed and a guarantee that it's been nowhere near any part of you.
Exactly.
Baywatch movie 2 used popcorn bucket.
Nope. Nope.
Oh. All right. Well, on
This is
that
really
note,
fast going downhill.
speaking of going downhill, No Time for Love, Dr. Jones. We're going to talk about Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. This is the 1984 Steven Spielberg film starring starring Indiana Jones. Harrison Ford, Kate Capshaw, and Ke Huy Quan. This is the prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark, which was a choice where in 1935, Indiana Jones is tasked by Indian villagers with reclaiming a rock stolen from them by a secret cult beneath the catacombs of an ancient palace. This is a film that I've watched multiple times because I'm a completionist, and if I'm watching the trilogy, I watch the trilogy. Got to go through and watch them all. This is not my favorite of the Indiana Jones films, as displayed by all of the merchandise I have from other ones except for this one. I have for the listeners at home, I have the VHS for Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. And the teaser poster for Dial of Destiny up behind me. because there were only 4 Indiana Jones films.
That's a bold statement, man.
But yeah, this is not my favorite of the Indiana Jones films. Not my favorite Spielberg movie either. I think if I had to rank all of Spielberg's movies, this would be towards the bottom.
Wow.
And I will tell you why. Like, there are things about this I love. There are moments of this that I love. There are things about this that I cannot stand. And we'll get into that. Devin, what are your thoughts on Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom?
Yeah, man. So I've seen all of the Indiana Jones movies like once, and that's it. Like, I don't rewatch these. I don't come back to them, and like for no real reason. I like them. I enjoy them. But like, I always kind of knew that, like, even before I watched them, I think my dad was like, "All right, Devin, people hate this one, but it's number 2, so here we go." So I remember like going into it knowing that I wasn't going to like it as much as I liked the first one. And I've only ever watched it once, and this is my second time ever watching this movie. And it's about the same as me watching Raiders. So it's not like I like hold special contempt for this or anything. Yeah, it's kind of a rough watch. There are parts that are cool. I like Indiana Jones. I love Short Round. Willie is okay. I like the pseudo mysticism that happens in it. I don't love when people are like, Indiana Jones and magic, that's ridiculous, because they always do magic. Like, it's in all of them, and like I think that it's used to the same effect as it's used in number 1 and number 3 just fine. Like, and like the Kali Ma scene is iconic. So like, there are parts I love. There are parts that make this a really hard rewatch for me.
Yeah. All right, Ryan. Defense, you're a witness.
Dazzle us.
So this is one of my favorite. This is one of my favorites of the series. I've always taken Indiana Jones to be like the serial cartoons, because that's what the character is based on, like serial cartoons from the newspaper, and just outrageous things would happen. And this to me is the Indiana Jones that gets closest to that type of, like, you know, newspaper comic book ridiculousness, and that's why I like it. The cringiness in it, to me, Devin, that what you were pointing out, is a hallmark back to the time when those comics were going on. So, you know, there are blatant outdated issues there. But even the craziness of the movie, I take it as complete ham. And so stuff that I probably should, like, that I should and probably do point out in other movies as bad, I just brush off to the side as just, oh, they're being silly. And then I just keep on going with it. Because I will laugh my way through this movie, like, from beginning to end.
Okay, so now you've presented me with a version of this movie that I wasn't ready for when I watched it. Because, like RoboCop, I watched it on its face and went, it's a story about a robot cop. And completely missed the commentary underneath it. Ryan, what am I missing here?
Just the complete corniness that were adventure comics in the 20s and in the 30s.
It's intentionally doing an homage to adventure comics. Because I think...
Now, I know that that's where this comes from. So that could be what I'm laying over this movie, and I'm just completely missing all of the issues with it because I'm laying that idea over it. And with, you know, like, I'm popping out the lenses of my rose-colored glasses, and I am laying them on the film. Like, that's probably what I'm doing here. I will fully admit that. That's how I view this. That it's just like a giant comic from it's one of those old school comics from the newspaper.
Yeah. Here's my take on it. I think if you look at Raiders of the Lost Ark, one of the biggest takeaways from that film is the opening sequence with the idol and the boulder and all of the traps in that temple. I think I think someone looked at the success of that and how much that connected with pop culture, and they're like, okay, you know what? Let's do a whole movie set in a place like that, and have all these different traps and all these different contraptions that they get stuck in, and all these different things that they have to do and to escape. And let's just build a movie around that. Which, on paper, not a bad idea. Like, there's still enough character there with Indiana Jones and his mission to get those stones back that it work like that on paper works, and that there's a version of this film where that works. My biggest problem with this movie doesn't have anything to do with the setting or the environments that they're in. I can't stand Willie.
Really?
At all.
Really?
It wouldn't be so bad if she was. It's the screaming. It's the overacting, loud screaming every 10 seconds. Because one of the best parts of Raiders of the Lost Ark is how great of a character Marion is. Like, she's badass, she's confident, she can handle herself, she can drink you under the table. Willie is just panicking the whole time.
She's a city girl.
And it grinds on me. Like, I cannot. I took one note for this movie. I paused the movie, rewound, and wrote something down.
What did you write?
I wrote down 5757. Do you want to tell me what happens at that time code? If you can guess. I want you to guess. I don't want you to actually look. There's something that happens at 5757.
Is it? Okay, I know it. This is when they are in the temple looking down on the Kali Ma thing happening, and they're sneaking in the corner, and Willie just screams really loud, completely giving away where they are.
No. Ryan, do you want to take a guess?
It is. I'm gonna go with Devin because I have no idea. Okay. My sense of time right now is completely out the window when it comes to that. It's when he mentions the diamonds coming together in the rocks, and her face goes, "Ooh, diamonds."
No.
Okay.
It's the scene where Short Round and Indy are in the death trap that's coming down from the ceiling. He's like, "We are going to die," and does like that weird facial thing.
Yeah.
She reaches in and starts screaming, and he says, "Oh, shut up," at 57:57.
Let's see. Okay, so I can totally understand. I can completely understand that when it comes to her. There are times when it's too much, but that's one of the reasons why I I don't like her character. I feel like her character fills a need, and that need is the just position between because you said before it's technically a prequel, so it's set before Raiders of the Lost Ark. So it's setting an example of so not all the women he comes across are these badass adventurers like his ex weird relationship ex that he had.
We're not going to dive into the details of Indiana Jones and Marion.
We're not going to get into how they originally know each other. So this is an example of him, dealing with someone who has probably never been camping before, never been outside of a hotel that didn't have running water. And this is what he just has to deal with. And she's complaining literally the whole time about everything when he's just what this is normal. This is normal life. And she's like, where's my room service? To me, it's a whole just position thing. And to me, all the screaming's comical. That's one of the reasons why I laugh through this movie is because of her reaction to things.
On paper, having a female lead who is not as confident as Marion and reacts to things a bit more, like the bizarre things that you find in the temple here makes sense. I just think the performance is over the top and grinding. Like
I feel like that's everything in this movie, though. Not the grinding part, but everything is over the top, right? It's not just that we're having a dinner and the flavors might not be the kind that India's used to. We're literally eating bugs and monkey brains for dessert with these literal caricatures of human beings.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of everyone in this movie is just a caricature until Indy has like 3 seconds where he grows and he's like, it's not all about fortune and glory.
Yeah.
Otherwise, short round is short round, right? If you call a character short round, what do you think he's going to do and say? That is what he does and says.
Yeah, and that's and that's another and that's why I said before, I take this as a true like pull no punches callback to the corniness and ridiculousness of like old adventure comics, of like everyone being turned up to 11. Like the guy that is like one of the guys at dinner literally has a cartoonish pushed on completely fake mustache that has handlebars on it that is literally like this big compared to his face. And that's just one example of just how ridiculous things are, to the point where like even the joke where Willie's asking about the Sultan, of like, whoa, like he's single and do you think he'll like me? And it's a 12-year-old boy. And you know, like it's that type of stuff in this that is the part where Short Round and Indy is trying to get her to eat, and she's like, no, I won't. And they're like, no, you will. You will eat this. It's just everything's turned up to 11 in this.
So it's weird because one of the reasons why this movie, I think, doesn't sit as close to my heart as some of the other ones is because, for me, it lacks a very distinct flavor of adventure that I feel like we got in the first one and that we get in every other Indiana Jones movie after this, that I feel like this is missing. And I wonder if you guys feel the same way. For me, it's that travel that he does, where he's literally going around the world to these ancient sites. Each of them are unique. Each of them are grand. Each of them are interesting. And he's gathering this worldwide clue for this single puzzle that he has to solve by the end of it. And this one, he kind of happens on the temple that he kind of knew was in roughly this location anyway. And it all takes place in a single location that, once they get into the temple itself, aside from that main room, is largely uninteresting. There's the couple of traps before, there's the big cool room, then it's, you know, mines and a rope bridge and like a minecart track, and like that's not as fun to watch for me as like, wow, look at this big temple carved into the side of a mountain, or like, oh, the Temple of Doom and it's like Egyptian. I don't know Temple of Doom, but like the one in the first one where it's like Egyptian almost. Like, to me, those are cooler locations and it's more varied, and that piece of it I'm missing from this movie.
The Egypt almost. You mean like when they're in Egypt?
Yeah, okay. So understand, my reference for this is I play the Super Nintendo video game for this almost on a monthly basis. I haven't seen the movie in years.
Oh man, I watched it before I watched this one.
I almost did. Good version of me rewatched all three of the original trilogy in preparation for this. Super didn't.
One thing I want.
Did you guys have that though? Were you missing the travel bit too, or are you guys like fine with it being a bottle episode?
That is a staple. Like that has become a staple of the Indiana Jones franchise. So, yeah, I think that is a big part of it, and why this film feels so disconnected from the other ones. Is it doesn't have that adventure. The other thing it doesn't have that the other two in the original trilogy have is Nazis. Like they are the bad guys of those two films, and I think having a different villain here, if you know, oh, Indiana Jones punches Nazis, like that can be a little bit jarring.
Abductors.
both of which are bad.
My thing is that I didn't really miss that from this episode. The whole flying around because it's different. It like the way that I've always seen it is that the first movie and the third movie are like his biggest adventures, like his biggest finds, like within his personal life. And they're always talking about, like on the outside of him doing that, people are like, oh, like Mr. Jones, how finally nice to meet you. I've always heard about you, this and that. And this movie is a little bottle of how he got the reputation that he has. It's not from going around and every single mission he's on having to go from like Turkey to the Congo to Australia to Alaska and then finally to Rio, Brazil to go into the sewer to like find some treasure.
Yeah.
The majority of what he does is going to be at one single site, digging through or doing whatever, and then finding, such and such a thing. Or coming across something in a book he's researching in California and then realizes that there's an insert about something that he remembers from something on Easter Island or something like that. So it's only like 2 locations.
Do you think that like most of his adventures look like this one is, but 2 of his biggest are the ones that we see?
Yeah, so like, and which is perfect to make this a prequel because it's kind of showing you how he got the name that he developed going into those other movies. It's going to be a bunch of small stuff like this.
Yeah.
All right. I have to put my hands up here, guys. I didn't catch it. It was a sequel.
Prequel.
What did I miss?
A prequel.
Yeah, I didn't catch it was a prequel. What did
so
I miss?
the big thing is the year.
Yeah.
Raiders is
when the first one takes place.
Raiders is 1939.
Oh.
This is 1936.
Okay, then that makes total sense.
That's the big
I
thing.
should have rewatched all these movies, dang it.
And like if you look at the opening scene, he's trading something for fortune and glory. Like he doesn't do that. Like his thing later becomes what, Devin?
That he's not in it for fortune and glory.
No, what's his line? It's not for fortune and glory. What does that artifact deserve?
What does it deserve?
It belongs in a museum.
Oh, right. Yeah, all right. And that's where he's at in the first one, isn't it?
Yeah.
It belongs in a museum, yeah.
Okay, see, this is the depth of character that I don't get by playing the Super Nintendo video game.
You also don't get the John Williams score.
By only playing the Super Nintendo video game.
Yeah. Also what?
Don't get the John Williams score.
But I do get an 8-bit part of it, and it made that, like, them doing the raft down the mountain so much cooler because I love the music in that.
Okay.
I love it.
Can we talk about that for a second? Like people gave nuking the fridge in Crystal Skull a lot of flack. Jumping out of a plane in a inflatable raft is more just as or more so even more ridiculous than nuking a fridge.
Okay, yes, it is ridiculous, and it's one of the things that I laugh at. Again, this movie keeps me laughing throughout the entire thing. But what sets this movie up for me every time I watch it, because I don't watch it that often. Like, this is probably the first time I've seen it in like 6 years that I've actually sat down to watch this movie. One of the things that always sets me up to enjoy this movie is the opening musical number, because it reminds me, like, oh, this isn't a serious movie. Okay.
Like everything goes.
Yeah, and then when she poses, and then Indiana Jones is in the Temple of Doom appears around her, like perfect, almost like MGM studio type, like meet me in St. Louis type, like opening writing. Like to me, again, it goes right into that same category as like that one perfect shot from Roadhouse where that one character is looking through the hole in the windshield. Like it's one of those things where it's like it's just a perfect one-time shot. And like you've got the musical number, and then that happens. I'm like, I know exactly what type of movie I'm watching. I'm all into this. And then of course you get the yellow raft down the mountain, the going over the cliff 200 feet down onto the water, perfectly fine.
I mean, it's the cut where he's like, well, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
Literal hard comedic cut to them going off a cliff.
Yeah.
I laughed at that. I thought that was funny. And then I spent the whole time going, are those dolls in that raft now? Because they didn't just throw people down there, did they?
Oh, okay. So speaking of dolls, one of my favorite effects that they do, because it's silly and it's hysterical, when they show the characters in the cage being lowered into the liquid hot magma going down the tube. Alan caught that. I know he did. Anyway, like going down the tube and being lowered. Yeah, exactly. Being lowered down, they do a shot from up top, and I don't know how big the models were, but you could see that it's a puppet with one single gear working the shoulders going side to side like that, and you could clearly tell that it's this latex like human shaped blob with like a little motor gear in the shoulders working it back and forth, and you can really see it in Willie's character. It's so funny to see.
That is really fun.
I wanted to touch on something quick that Devin reminded me of when he was talking about the soundtrack to the SNES game. When I was in Winchester for the film festival this weekend, we found a store that had a bunch of pinball machines.
Ooh.
And they had like a Spider-Man pinball machine, a Star Trek one. The one that I gravitated to immediately was the Hook pinball machine, because
Not what I would have guessed.
Hook is like one of my top John Williams scores of all time. It's like I'm gonna play this because this is like I've never seen this before and now I want one. But the Hook pinball machine had a pinball version of his score to it as well, which was amazing.
That is very cool.
But since we're talking about score, I mean, one of the things that's redeeming about this movie is the John Williams score. Like I really like the short round theme. I wish they would have brought it back and brought the character back at some point in the 3 films since this one. But I like John Williams and Steven Spielberg together. You can't miss.
No, you're right. I love the score for this. Like it. You're right. It's so iconic, and it's so like. I mean, when I think about like best Indiana Jones themes, aside from like the obvious one, the ones from Temple of Doom come to my mind first.
The other thing I wanted to show off to you guys is I said at the beginning of the show I don't have much Temple of Doom stuff. At least I don't have any out. That's a lie. I've got the screenplay right here. Page 51 is where Indiana Jones tells Willie to shut up.
Did you read it, and are there many differences?
I did not read it. I forgot I had it until I sat down for the show. I was like, oh yeah, I have all 3 of the screenplays for these.
That is very cool, though.
Yeah.
One of something that I want to bring up that is something that irritates me about pop culture and this movie, and because Devin, you know how before that there were certain movies that, like, when you were younger, you would just tell people you had seen because you didn't want to go through the hassle of them, like, making you watch it, and because you'd seen all the pop reference things about it.
And you're watched it anyway.
I get it, yeah. So one of the things that I hate from pop culture about this movie, and I get the joke, I find it funny, but it irritates me to people that take it a bit too seriously. Family Guy. Stewie. She's only in this movie because she's humping director.
Is that a thing?
That's a thing.
Yes. They got married after this.
They got married, and they are still married to this day. So people can make all the jokes they want about her getting this role because she was sleeping with him. But to be perfectly honest, they are still married to this day. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm happy she got the role.
I can't wait to see the Fabelmans 2.
This will be in it. This will be the main event.
Yeah, she hasn't done much since this.
Has she not?
She pretty much kind of did what was that one actress from Friends where she kind of took a break from acting and focused on like home stuff.
Hmm.
What's her name?
Lisa Kudrow.
No, not Lisa. No, Ross's sister,
Monica.
Monica. Didn't she take a break from like acting for a while after Friends when she got married and like a family? Or am I thinking of a different actress? I forget. I thought it was her.
I mean, it depends on how many Scream movies they made after Friends came out.
Wasn't she also in like Cougar Town or something?
Yeah, she was on Cougar Town.
That was like
Look,
way after though. That
I
was,
don't
like,
know how
20
long
years.
her break was. It might have been only 3 years, but I do know that there was an actress that was really popular for not a short time, a pretty decent amount of time, and then she just kind of like took a break because she got married, she wanted to have a family, and she took a few years off to like do that, and then she started slowly coming back, and I forget who it was, but
Rick
I think,
Moranis.
that's okay. Yes, that's what he did, but under different circumstances.
That's fair. Yeah.
But when you see how many kids that her and Spielberg had, I mean, I kind of get why she didn't really do a lot.
Did they
Later
have a lot
on.
of kids? I don't know anything about Spielberg's personal life. I didn't watch The Fabelmans or Google him at all.
They have more than 2.
I didn't know that. Good for them.
Yeah.
I didn't know that angle of this about Willie, and that's really interesting.
But
I don't really have much
reason
more.
why-
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry. No, it was what I was gonna. I kind of got trailed off there. What I was gonna say was that I've known a few people that like kind of took that joke and ran with it, and has kind of made that their main thing as to why like they don't really like the movie. Like that's kind of like the jumping off part for it.
I don't like that.
And I'm like,
No.
it's a funny joke, but can't take everything too seriously.
Yeah, I don't think I would take that too seriously.
Yeah. But yeah.
I don't have much more to say about this. We've pretty much hit all the points that I had.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it was like just me about the travel thing, and then like
No.
just the fact that like.
Yeah,
it
I
was
agree with
over
you on the
top to the point of like stereotype, and it hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, even Indy's character was over the top and stereotyped. Like that's the thing. Like I feel like everyone's energy matched each other at maximum.
Yeah.
For it, so.
Okay, I'm gonna say a weird question here because I haven't watched the other two in the original trilogy, but I remember I've seen the newest one recently, and I know people are like dragging it because they don't like it, and I feel like the reason they don't like it is because they're like, well, it's not as good as the originals. Guys, the originals really that much different than the newer ones? Like they all have some like over the top escape. I mean, this one does, and the new ones do. They have over the top characters. I mean, like are the new ones like that much worse in comparison?
I like Dial of Destiny. I think Dial of Destiny hits the same tone as the originals more
I
so
thought
than
so
Crystal
too.
Skull.
I liked it.
So
Well, that's kind of where I'm coming from. This is I really like Dial of Destiny. I don't know why people are so down on it because it feels better than this movie to me.
yeah.
Do you have that, Ryan?
It's nostalgia.
Is it? Did you see Dial of Destiny, Ryan?
I have not really cared to make it a point to go out and watch any of the new Indiana Jones movies.
I'm gonna.
Not for any other reason than I'm fine with the 3 that I know. And if I come across them or I have to watch them for any reason, I will. And like it's just that. But I feel like it gets into for example, music. Almost everyone thinks that the music that they listened to when they were a teenager was the best era of music that there is, and then when they hear their kids' music, like, oh, this stuff sucks, it's not as good as when I was listening, and then their parents had said the same thing about their music. So you've got people who grew up with the original Indiana Jones movies, and then the new ones come out and they're like, oh, these aren't as good as the ones before, and then their kids are going to say the same thing about their kids as in Indiana Jones movies when they have to AI Harrison Ford into the movies.
That would hurt. That would really hurt. Would you two accept somebody else as Indiana Jones? Because the other parallel that I was getting in this movie was between Short Round and Shia LaBeouf. It almost feels like functionally they were filling similar roles, and everyone super turned on Shia LaBeouf, and I'm pretty sure Short Round is like a beloved character. If somebody else picked up Indiana Jones, if they did, I don't know, Oklahoma Jones, would you guys be on board with it, or would you hate it?
I think a film in the style of Indiana Jones, it works better than just another Indiana Jones, because Harrison Ford is Indiana Jones. I think that's why a film like Sahara with Matthew McConaughey works so well, because that's very much in the vein of Indiana Jones, and National Treasure is in the vein of Indiana Jones with Nicolas Cage. I feel like there's a style of film that you can do that doesn't need to have Indiana Jones. Like, I think the story type works without Indiana Jones.
You guys got to make me watch Sahara then. I didn't know it worked. I thought that was not a good one.
I didn't even know the movie existed until I started dating Kristen, and it was one of her like go-to like background noise movies. So I watched it maybe a good 5 times in the first like 4 months we were dating.
Aww.
And I was like, I actually really like this. And I'm like, do I actually like this actor? Like, I think I do. I think I actually like him. I think I actually like like this actor.
Who is it?
Matthew McConaughey.
Is
Up
it
into
like...
that point, the only thing I've ever saw him in was Dazed and Confused.
Is he doing like modern Matthew McConaughey? Like, I don't drive a Lincoln.
A little bit. Yeah. It was before the reconnaissance.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Back when he was
like, is this like on the cusp of it?
Yeah, back when he was just all right.
Yeah, he was more kind of like he was more of like a laid back character in it. But yeah,
Oh, shoot, no, I want to watch this movie, guys.
Yeah, I'll put it on the list for sure.
Perfect.
Anything else on Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom?
That's all I got, man.
All right.
I want a snake stuffed with eels. That's what I want.
No, you don't. Nobody does.
I was really hoping that, because it's happened before, that Devin was going to have recipes prepared from the movie to eat on camera.
And here we have our chilled monkey brains. I remember a toy. Okay,
Yes, I do too. Yeah.
That you could make like gruesome desserts of like sugar candy. And I remember a brain being part of it. And for some reason, I'm thinking that there was a toy or an action figure or something of the monkey brain thing, but I can't be certain of it because that might be a fake memory.
No, you're thinking of the toy called Dreadful Food Lab, Dr. Dreadful's Food Lab.
I saw the commercials, but I never got it, and I never played with it.
They gave you a skull that you could eat his pink brains out of.
Yeah.
Absolutely the worst thing in the world. Yeah.
It was probably like 40% lead. It was probably
yeah.
It was, especially after what's come out about Lunchables.
All right. Yeah. All right. So that does it for this week's episode. Next week we're going to go back to the regular original formula of You Have to Watch This podcast, where one of us picks a film that at least one of us has never seen. Next week it is Ryan's turn. Ryan, what are you going to have us watch?
I am going to finally have you guys watch one of my favorite movies of all time, James Cameron's The Abyss Special Edition. So it is finally available on Amazon. It has finally been remastered in HD and 4K. I will send you guys... I will send you guys the information so you spend the money on the right one to rent it, because unfortunately you're gonna have to rent it. So I want to make sure you guys get the right one. So okay. I'll get that information to you. This is a movie I have watched on repeat since I was like pretty much since it came out, as the earliest that I could watch it. So yeah, I'm so happy that I can finally do this after 6 years.
It looks like it's on Paramount Plus for free.
No way.
I will double check that. I will double check that and make sure that that's the right thing.
Yeah. free when you pay for Paramount Plus.
Well, free when you pay for Paramount
yeah.
Plus, yeah.
You do.
But no extra cost, I should say.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So join us next week for James Cameron's The Abyss. You can catch up on You Have to Watch This podcast on all major podcasting platforms. We are slowly getting caught up with getting episodes back out there. So hopefully by the end of this weekend, we'll have all of our shows back up. But in the meantime, you can watch You Have to Watch This podcast on YouTube. And you also check out rumrunnerspodcastnetwork.com to check out our show and all the other wonderful Rum Runners Podcast Network shows. Until next time, for You Have to Watch This podcast, I'm Alan.
Ryan.
And I'm Devin.
And we will see you next week because this show belongs in a museum.
After 6 years, it does. After 6 8 years. Okay.
Six
yeah,
with-
no, so it
six with
definitely
Devin.
does.